If we observe the forest's elements at a smaller scale, we will discover a group of organisms inhabiting absolutely every corner. Diminutive in size, but gigantic in diversity of forms, colors, types, and lifestyles. The insects. More than half of all living organisms on our planet are insects. They appear to be one of nature's favorite productions. They combine beauty, structural complexity, they have close relationships with other animals and plants. They also express behaviors so marvelous that they exceed even the most fertile human imagination. The flies constitute an order of insects equally admirable. Even though in general we have associated them negatively with garbage or with the uncomfort of their bites, amongst them there are hundreds of beautiful species playing different ecological roles in nature. Micropezid or stilt-legged flies are a diverse family in the tropics. They are characterized by having very elongated second and third pair of legs, the first pair being much smaller and brightly marked. The virulatus fly is a relatively common species of the premontane forests of Costa Rica, whose natural history has been unknown until recently. Females can be recognized by the long ovipositor that is generally bent forward under the abdomen. Part of the male's genitalia is enclosed in a sheath at the tip of his abdomen. Just anterior to the sheath is a modified sternite in the shape of a fork. The fly's general body shape, color, and its behavior make it resemble a parasitoid wasp. To the human eye, and perhaps to some other visually orienting animals, such as birds and lizards, they can be easily confused. A fly and a wasp. A fly and a fly. Up close, they are not alike at all. Notice the white bands and the movement in the wasp's antennae, and the white front legs of the fly. A harmless, non-stinging mimic, coexisting with an aposematic and stinging model. Often, during the morning, the virulatus flies can be found gathered on leaves on certain species of plants, defending some spots energetically. The branches above are infested with homopterans. The psyllid nymphs, covered with their protective wax, suck the plant's juices and excrete clear, sweet feces. The rain of honeydew provides food for other organisms as well, such as ants. It contains water, carbohydrates, and amino acids. Some flies defend the honeydew against competitors by kicking them like a soccer ball. These flies also have the role of helping decompose dead matter in the forest. They feed on frass from herbivorous insects, rotting fruit found on the ground, fresh bird droppings, and dead insects. Most diurnal insects sleep alone, hanging on tips of branches or dry leaves. But there are a few species that aggregate in certain roosts, like these butterflies. With the help of infrared light, we can observe these insects at night without disturbing them. The virulatus flies sleep in small aggregations on the leaves of several species of plants. They can use the same sleeping site for up to 5 continuous months. Most flies perch on the tips of leaves, facing towards the petiole. They rest in a unique manner. Like in a dream trance, they slowly wave the night away. Up close, we can see that there are more males than females. The sex ratio in the sleeping aggregation averages about 3 males for every female. The speed at which they wave their legs varies throughout the night. This behavior may function to detect the approach of a potential predator, such as a spider or an ant. the night passes by and the nocturnal encounter gains its purpose the next day. Before dawn, when it's still dark, the flies in the sleeping aggregation become active. Each male inflates the lower part of his abdomen and swings it before the female. Because the sex ratio in the nocturnal aggregations is male-biased, many males remain aroused without attracting any females. The female often approaches the male. As soon as he mounts her, he rubs the ventral side of her abdomen with his hind legs. The male fly performs several types of apparent courtship behavior during copulation. Besides giving her an initial rub on her abdomen, he vibrates his wings, pushes forward, and gives her a first peck on the eyes. The function of rubbing her abdomen might be to stimulate her to raise her ovipositor so it slides through the fork of the male's sternite and facilitates coupling. Throughout the copulation, the female constantly taps and kicks the male with her front legs. Copulations last from a few minutes to almost an hour, and they only take place around dawn. Intermittently, the female shakes vigorously, but the male has a special way to appease her. He regurgitates a liquid and dabs it directly on the female's proboscis. More often, the male deposits just small quantities of liquid on the head or eyes of the female, who then wipes them off with her front legs and takes the substance to her mouth. Observations and experiments suggest that the function of this nuptial feeding in the virulatus flies is probably a form of mating effort from the male to remain coupled and to convince her of his stimulatory abilities. Another curious behavior displayed by the male when the female shakes is to lift his second pair of legs up into the air. And after she has settled, he flexes the tips of his legs. The function of this behavior is unknown. When there are few females in the meeting site, some males engage in encounters among themselves. Touching and wrestling, could these be ritualized fights? On the contrary, in one unusual case, when females outnumbered males in the aggregation, two eager females approached the copulating pair and stole the substance that the male was donating to his partner. A copulation may end during the female shakes or immediately after. But in most of the couples studied, it ends smoothly with no conspicuous prelude. After a male has dismounted, a female may solicit another copulation. These extra copulations are generally shorter. A given female can mate up to 4 times with different males in a single morning. In this case, the male failed to cooperate. The event following a copulation is decisive in that it may determine the reproductive future of a particular male. Many females extend their ovipositor and emit a droplet that often contains variable amounts of sperm. These droplets vary in color, in number, and volume. Sperm discharge after a copulation may be a female-controlled mechanism to bias the competition in favor of some males over others. The occurrence of elaborate male courtship during copulation in this species suggests that cryptic female choice is probably occurring. This courtship may induce the female to respond in a way that increases the male's chances of reproduction with her. Once the female has matured eggs, she fertilizes them with the sperm that wasn't discarded and then searches for an adequate substrate to lay them in, such as rotten trunks or humid leaf litter. The eggs are laid in several small batches, each with an average of 30 eggs. After approximately 2.5 months, the larvae have eaten their way through the leaf litter, they have matured and pupated. The flies emerge from the leaf litter generally in the morning. In their first hour after emergence, they climb plants in the search of a safe place to initiate wing expansion. At this point, they continue to inflate the aversible sac on the front of the head that assists them in splitting off the cap of the puparium. Contractions of the abdomen force blood into the wings, causing them to expand. The legs also lengthen and become straightened. This young female has also extended her ovipositor. The process lasts about 3 hours in total until the fly is strong and sturdy enough to search for food. For this female, the sticky liquid in the trichomes of this plant is her first source of energy. Occasionally, some females are found carrying a pseudoscorpion, like the one we can observe hanging from her hind leg. Very rarely they grasp a front leg. These arachnids are apparently phoretic, which means that they use the flies as a form of transportation to disperse from one rotten trunk to another. Even though they might make their carriers a little uncomfortable, they don't cause them any perceptible damage. Another day passes in the life of these graceful flies. Their intricate behavior offers opportunities to study some ecological aspects of mimicry between flies and wasps. The mechanisms and function of nocturnal aggregations in insects and their relation with mating behavior. Also the function of nuptial feeding during copulation and some mechanisms of sexual selection by cryptic female choice. And finally, with their role as decomposers of dead organic matter in the forest, they remind us that every organism, big or small, has an important function in nature. To learn about them, we only need to slow down, observe carefully, and appreciate their value.